is all your TV in one place, plus more. Watch thousands of hit shows, movies, and award-winning Hulu originals for only $5.99 per month. It's TV without the cable contract and the freedom of on-demand streaming. Get current network shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, and binge watch every season of your favorite cable shows. Premium Hulu viewing is brought to you by Proline Automotive and AB Sports, Guam's store for Nike. To advertise on Hulu, call Choice Digital at 989-0042.
Konnichiwa! We'll be celebrating the 40th Japan Autumn Festival on Saturday, November 16th from 2 until 9 at the Governor Joseph Flores Beach Park. That's Ipao Beach Park. Parking will be available across Oka Payless with free shuttle service every 15 minutes starting at 1:30. Advance tickets available now at the Japan Club of Guam office located on the first floor of Pia Marine during business hours. The Japan Autumn Festival at Ipao Beach Park, November 16th from 2 to 9. Come join us. For information, call 646-8066. This message made possible by Choice Broadcasting.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Kentucky campaigning. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. President Trump in Lexington Monday evening, pushing for the re-election Tuesday of Governor Matt Bevin.
He put his whole life at stake to help this state, and the job he's done is incredible. Under his leadership, Kentucky has created over 57,000 new jobs.
Bevin in a tight re-election race with the state's attorney general standing in front of a group of people wearing Read the Transcript T-shirts. The president again brought up the effort by congressional Democrats to remove him.
The Democrats voted to try and nullify the ballots of tens of millions of Americans. To be exact, 63 million people, disgracing themselves and bringing shame upon the House of Representatives.
At the request of the White House, 2 NSA attorneys and 2 employees of the Office of Management and Budget refused to appear Monday before congressional committees probing the president. Transcripts of the previously secret depositions of former Ukraine Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch and former State Department Senior Advisor Michael McKinley were released on Monday. Republican Congressman Jim Jordan says they are not germane to the issue of the president's phone call with the Ukrainian president.
Mr. McKinley wasn't involved in the situation. As I've said before, the fundamental facts have never changed, will never change. We've seen the transcript. Everyone has been able to read that. That's the best evidence that nothing, no quid pro quo, no kind of conditions were ever in play.
Transcripts from the closed-door interviews with U.S.-EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland and former Special Envoy Kurt Volker will be released on Tuesday. President's legal team says they're headed to the Supreme Court to appeal a ruling Monday from the Federal Appeals Court in Washington that the president must hand over to the district attorney in Manhattan several years of his income tax records in the probe of reported hush money payments. His lawyer says the president is immune from the action. America is listening to Fox News.
Did you know that home loan rates have plunged again? Would you like to take advantage of these lower rates to help lower your monthly payments? Refinancing doesn't have to be for another 30 years. It can be for 10, 15, or 20 years. It's up to you. Reduce your monthly payments. Pay off your loan earlier. At Bank Pacific, where we're open to closing your loan in a hurry.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, replace roots.
Equal housing lender. Credit conditions apply.
Here's Bob in the traffic chopper. What's up, Bob?
Traffic is at a standstill right now with a guy standing in the middle of the street holding a sign. Let me zoom in. The sign says, "Free the fence."
What does that mean, Bob?
Not sure, but the guy's out there smiling and waving in short shorts with a weird-looking little hat. He's got a sign in one hand and what looks like, is it? What? It is. It's a bottle of beer in the other.
Oh, no. That's Ray.
Free the fences in your mind with The Ray Gibson Show. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on 93.3 The Point.
Reported plot to blow up a Jewish synagogue in Pueblo, Colorado has been foiled.
Colorado U.S. Attorney Jason Dunn says they've charged 27-year-old Richard Holzer with a hate crime.
Attempting to obstruct the exercise of religious beliefs by attempting to destroy, through the use of explosive devices, the Temple Emmanuel Synagogue.
The FBI got a tip about his social media posts, and eventually undercover agents contacted him and learned he'd been focused on the synagogue in Pueblo for some time.
Mr. Holzer repeatedly expressed his hatred of Jewish people and his support of a racial holy war.
He was arrested after agents gave him inert pipe bombs and dynamite sticks, which he said he would use to blow up the synagogue. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
After the courts refused to stop it, South Dakota put a condemned man to death on Monday evening. 63-year-old Charles Rhines was convicted in the stabbing death of a donut shop worker during a 1992 robbery. He'd sued, saying the procedure could be slow and painful, but the witnesses say the lethal dose of pentobarbital did its job in about 5 minutes. A manhunt continues in California for 2 murder suspects who managed to escape from a detention facility in Monterey County on Sunday.
Turns out is the 2 individuals were able to identify a blind spot that we have in this particular housing unit, and be able, which is what they were able to exploit to be able to use the escape. That's Captain John Thornburg of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office, who says Santos Fonseca and Jonathan Salazar are likely desperate and dangerous. You heard no doubt about the enterprising college kid who was making donut runs from Minnesota to Iowa each week, buying Krispy Kreme donuts and then reselling them for a profit back in Minnesota. Attorneys for the donut chain told him to stop. Now, Krispy Kreme has reached a deal with Jason Gonzalez. He can now work with them as an independent contractor. They'll also donate 500 dozen donuts to get his business going again. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Hulu is all your TV in one place, plus more. Watch thousands of hit shows, movies, and award-winning Hulu originals for only $5.99 per month. It's TV without the cable contract and the freedom of on-demand streaming. Get current network shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, and binge-watch every season of your favorite cable shows. Premium Hulu viewing is brought to you by Proline Automotive and AB Sports, Guam's store for Nike. To advertise on Hulu, call Choice Digital at 989-0042.
Go green, go hybrid, go to Nanbo Insurance, and your next power bill is on us. Insure your hybrid car at Nanbo and get up to $350 towards your next power bill. That's instant savings for keeping our island clean and green. Nanbo has been providing Guam with over 50 years of reliable and affordable auto insurance. At Nanbo, it pays to go green. Terms and conditions apply. Visit nanbo.com or call 477-9754 for details.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good afternoon and welcome to Tall Tales for Tuesday, November 5th. We already did the 1st. 2019, I'm Daryl Taggarty. I'm sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who will be back in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, before Thanksgiving. So he says, so let's, while we're waiting for him to get back, I'll be here. And I'll be here to take your calls at 888-8255, or you can say hi, register your comments on what's on your mind on our Facebook Live page. And thank you very much for tuning in this afternoon. Yesterday, I got a suggestion from James asking me to take a look at the Patriot Act and how it impacts or how it may be violating the Second Amendment. And I found a couple of articles. Actually, it might have spurred his thoughts on this. Is an op-ed that appeared in the Wall Street Journal on October 27th. And it's going to take me a few minutes to go through this. I'm not a lawyer, but I do want to take a look at this. Also, I found on the, it's a classroom discussion guide published by the Constitutional Rights Foundation that discusses the way that the Patriot Act is perhaps in violation of some of our constitutional rights. And so, but I won't deal with this today, but I do have it. I'm going to digest it, and perhaps tomorrow we'll talk about it a bit. And so I want to thank James for that suggestion, and to let him know that actually, for those of you who suggest topics for the show to deep dive, I've got several already in mind and on my list, but if you'd like to add to it, please do. by all means, please do. But for now, we'll go straight into Zami Ikatni. And on this daily feature here on Tall Tales, where we take a look at the editorial opinion of the two daily newspapers here on Guam, taking a look at just what it is that they're thinking. These are the editors who guide the reporters who go out and find the stories and bring them back for us to understand what's going on over our horizon, but not beyond the reef line. The PDN today, their editorial is reprinted from USA Today. It's entitled "Justice Tops All Politics. Impeachment is risky, but we have the option for a reason." And it's guest columnist Russ Feingold. But I'll leave that to you to take a look at. I just want to keep this off to the side. Okay, there we go. You can take a look at that in your leisure. We'll go straight to the editorial of local import from the Guam Daily Post on page 18 of today's Post. Recurring water woes, a symptom of crumbling public infrastructure that needs fixes. And so what do they say? You know, it's a page one story on PDN, and but there's a different story that they're talking about in the editorial of the Guam Daily Post. Guam Waterworks Authority crews have been out on weekends, weeknights, and in the early morning hours addressing a problem that boils down to crumbling water pipes. And while days and nights without running water are tiresome and hearken to post-typhoon conditions, Mong Mong resident Lyle Manabusan says he still appreciates the efforts of the GWA crews, who've basically been camped along Casimiro Street in Mong Mong. Quote, "This isn't their fault," he said over the weekend as his neighborhood endured another water outage because of a main water line rupture. "They're just doing their job." GWA does need to do a better job of explaining, even if after a break occurs, what they're doing. That way, if a disruption in service continues beyond what was initially anticipated, at least residents have an idea of what's going on so they can be prepared. Residents living on or around Toto Cañada Loop in Barragata, Ta'i, and Manilo, and areas of Santa Rita all have faced similar recurring water outages as a result of main water line break. These outages are often unexpected, so there are times when residents don't know if they'll be able to prepare food or use the bathroom early in the morning as they get ready for work and school, or when they get home and need to make dinner and do laundry. It's great that GWA is replacing lines, but perhaps the agency can pick up the speed of these projects without compromising the quality of work. For many residents who've woken up without running water that they paid to have available to their homes, with little advance notice, these occurrences can be a great inconvenience. And why should they have to put up with that over and over and over again? Over the last few years, GWA has been making headway in replacing decades-old water pipes. Some are more than half a century old and were made with materials that crumble over time. This also leads to another question residents are asking. Why are these lines only being replaced now? GWA has borrowed tens of millions of dollars over the past several years from the bond market for water line repairs, so the availability of funding might not have been the main problem. Earlier this year, GWA reported that more than $9.2 million worth of water line replacement projects, approximately 100,000 linear feet, under Phase 4 of its replacement project is expected to be completed this year. Phase 5 will include about $30 million worth of water line replacement over the next 6 years for pipes all over the island. But why weren't the lines replaced when officials knew they would be outdated and crumbling to the point where water service isn't reliable, creating more than just challenges in everyday living but also real health concerns? We Guamanians, like many residents in a developed community, expect to have running water when we turn on the faucet. Delayed upgrades to Guam's public infrastructure have disrupted other aspects of Guam residents' quality of life, including dilapidated public schools and the island's only public hospital, which is falling apart. We can't allow our elected officials to drop the ball again in the execution of public infrastructure upgrades or their oversight over these projects. It's imperative that our elected officials look at all of Guam's infrastructure issues and put together a realistic plan together to fix them. That's the Guam Daily Post editorial, Recurring Water Woes, a Symptom of Crumbling Public Infrastructure That Needs Fixes. It appears in today's Post on page 18. I'm going to take issue with this. It is borderline ignorant, and I'll tell you why. These areas where the water breaks are occurring, Mong, let's see, along Toto Cañada Loop in Barragata, Ta'i and Manilao, and areas of Santa Rita. All have faced similar recurring water outages as a result of a main water line break. Those water lines were installed by the Navy back in the late 1940s. That's why we know that those lines are going to break. And why are they breaking? Why are they breaking now? The editorial board or whoever wrote this is calling out GWA for not fixing them first. Well, the reason that they're not fixed first and the reason that they're breaking now are the same. A, the other water lines that are feeding them have been replaced, or they're newer, and pressure is going up because there's more water available. And so these 1940s water lines, these old distribution lines that have been put in a long time ago, or if they were replaced, they were replaced, just helter-skelter in the 1960s, in the early 60s. Well, that's why they're breaking, because they date back to the time when they weren't really put in permanent. They were put in for other purposes, not for 2019 residential demand. And yes, they are scheduled for replacement. You see, they're even admitting it in the editorial. Phase 5 will include about $30 million worth of water line replacement all over the island. Yeah, exactly. The Guam Water Works Authority has known for a long time, and they had to schedule the work, not to get it done all at one time. Now, maybe they can. If you take a look at today's PDN, PUC to consider higher cost for water, they have a plan, and I've seen that plan. I've gone over it, and it looked reasonable to me when I saw it several years ago, back in the early part of 2017 when I was working at the legislature, and one of my areas of responsibility was to attend the CCU meetings and go over the plans and the operations for oversight of the utilities. And it looked reasonable to me. Oh yeah, you might fault them for not getting them all done at the same time. But also consider, how long have we had a ban on H-2 workers? Who's going to bid for these projects if we can't get H-2 workers in? And do we have the budget to get these projects in at the same estimated cost when the estimates are based on H-2 workers? And we're going to come up with this, we're going to come back to this topic in a few minutes. The last paragraph, we can't allow our elected officials to drop the ball again in the execution of public infrastructure upgrades or their oversight over these projects. It's imperative that our elected officials look at all of Guam's infrastructure issues and put together a realistic plan together to fix them. And I say no. No, no, no. No to the last paragraph, no to the editorial's bottom line conclusion, no to what they want readers to take away with them after reading this editorial. No. It's not the elected officials who drop the ball on upgrades. They're not in charge of the upgrades. the planning or construction timing, nor should they. Utilities were delegated to autonomous agency boards long ago for good reason. The legislature and governor weren't good at managing or planning utilities and failed to install effective directors. They failed to dedicate funding for infrastructure replacement, and they failed to exercise effective oversight. That's why the agencies are autonomous. That's why we have a solid waste board instead of a division of solid waste at Public Works. That's why. Because they couldn't handle it. No matter what we think the virtues are of the people we've elected to the legislature and Adelup over the years, over the last 40, 50 years, no matter how wonderful you think they are, they could not handle it. The best thing they could do is spin it off to make sure that they didn't have their fingers in it. Now, I'm not a big fan of the members of the CCU. A couple of them I really like, but generally I'm not a big fan. But they are being effective in making sure that the people that we elect every 2 years for the legislature and every 4 years at Adelup don't have their fingers on it. And that's why they're elected. And they're doing the job that they were elected to do, whether they're really high on our priority list or not. Elected officials, the ones at Adelup and in Hagåtña, should just take care of what they do have. What do they have out of the public infrastructure? They've got a $952 million budget. Yes, thank you, Joe. I needed that. I needed that. It's time. I'm getting hot here. Anyway, $952 million budget that does not include the budget of waterworks or GPA or, it doesn't include them. It doesn't even include the money that the hospital uses itself, that it doesn't include the budgets of any agency that has the power to raise and spend its own money. The port, right? It's not part of that. This is what the legislature, and this is what our elected officials did today to help with the infrastructure. They sent Claudia Ekfadzi down to the port. Yeah, that's that. And they lined up a whole bunch of virtuous reasons why she had to go ride with the harbor master out to greet the vessels coming in. That's why she's got a hard hat on and she's walking around looking at containers dangling from cables. Because apparently that's where she's needed, not at the Department of Administration, not at GSA, please. Now, whether that's good or not, we'll find out. It's just one of those things. Actually, that's a card item, and maybe we'll get to that a little later on. But to continue, elected officials should just take care of what they do have. Use the $952 million budget, but they should be addressing GMH, Simon Sanchez High School, a new Central Guam Middle School. They should be upgrading the roads. They've got the highway funds, but we see them sit on those highway funds. Isn't this one of those items that I've been talking about for how long? The Guam Transportation Improvement Program meeting held on October 2nd, and we still don't know what happened. They didn't release it before the meeting. They had a public meeting, and they still haven't posted the items that they revealed in the public meeting about what the priorities are for the next 5 years. Still, as of now. Ridiculous. They still have posted the 2015 program plan. They could also upgrade roads and road drainage. Flooding problems that we know because we've just gone through a rainy season with them. They could fully fund our police force. How about that? How about raising the salaries of police so we have more recruits willing to go into the police force, our main police force, and not trying to go to the port police or the airport police or fire department, right? They can stand up 3 public health clinics so that we have a lower cost to the government of Guam alternative to GMH's emergency room or even the private clinics that have to be paid private rates. If it's cost effective, stand up the 3 clinics again. Staff them. If you take a look at today's page 1 story on PDN, PUC to consider higher cost for water. It's about the water rates. They're going to go up. And this was already the plan back in 2017. And that was already printed since the previous year. There's an example of fees being charged by an elected CCU to fund the water delivery part of the island's overall infrastructure needs. That's not even news. It's on the front page of the paper today. It's not even news. The elected officials, their job is to streamline the government, the part of the government that they have their hands on every day. They already raised taxes, and what are they doing with the taxes? They're going to maintain GovGuam salaries, pay for health benefits of GovGuam employees, and pay for those sleight-of-hand shortfalls. Because they've been sliding money around, using transfer authority and paying for faux emergencies or emergencies. If that is leadership, then we're going down. By identifying elected officials as the solution to crumbling water plant, today's editorial contributes to the pitiful lack of understanding of how our government operates. And it fails us readers in the process. So if I could take a negative star on this editorial, I would. This is not a service to the people of Guam writing this kind of... regurgitating a news story and then putting a daft conclusion at the bottom is just... No. No. Check mark, no star. Covered it, And so that's Dami Cotney for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. What do we have for comments on our Facebook page? Let's see. Troy Torres is with us. Good afternoon, Troy. And let's see. Oh, yeah, today's theme. And they call this work. They actually pay me to do this. I do radio for free. I don't mind. But because this is a for-profit company, they have to pay me to come in here and work. So I take their pay. I don't mind. They can deposit the money into my account. But it isn't something I do for money. I do this because I love being here. James Howard says, Hafaday Darrell, RJC, the real Joe Cruz, and Judge at Large. Yes. Our own Bob Klitzkie, touring the country, enjoying some fall foliage at this time and cool weather. And then James Howard says, can we talk about the FestPAC hearing at the legislature today? I didn't I didn't waste my time watching it. If you'd like to call in and tell me what you saw, I'd love to have your report on what it is that they were doing to justify how we've got money to play. And in fact, it's kind of odd. As I listened to some of the discussions going on about it, GVB's money would not go to the hospital. Okay, if you're looking at what the money should be, GVB's money should be used for, it should be used to promote Guam. And we don't really have a lot of promotion going on in the States. And even with our $400,000 and our 100-member strong Guam delegation going to Hawaii, we don't get much of a promotional bump, but it's about the closest thing, to using that funding from GVB instead of using it from the general fund or raising taxes to cover it, spending an extra, percentage point on business privilege tax. So, yeah, let me know what you think. 888-8255 is a good way to let me know. And then Ishmael Velez is with us, and then James Howard says, yes, thanks, Daryl. Yeah, and that's about his suggestion for the Patriot Act going too far. I am going to digest this. We'll cover it tomorrow. And then Tom Van Engen says, afternoon, Daryl, and worldwide tall tale posse. Absolutely. Posse in force today. Pam Duvall's with us. Pam, maybe our mayor's not going to run again, right? That's the article in the newspaper today about who's signed up and who's not already for next year's election. And then James Howard says, thanks CCU and PUC. Well done. Absolutely. I know those jokers. I know all of them. And they're a better crew. As a rule, they're a better crew than the ones that are sitting down across from the cathedral today. And they don't have as wide of a reach. They don't have so many items on their plate. But they're doing the job they were elected or appointed to do. And so that's what we ask. That's all we ask for. Just do the job you were elected or appointed to do. And then we'll all get along. It'll be so much better around here. Even if it costs us more. Oh, I wanted to bring this up. Consider this. As we're bumping on a break here, but I'll continue with our Pam is waiting for the world to change. She must have heard that song on a World Cafe or someplace. If you consider this, consider the delay in the military buildup. If the military buildup was done, if it had started on time, and it's not delayed for anything that we've done around here, even the shooting range and all that stuff, the main part of the military buildup, if it was done on time, all of that construction activity would have contributed to the finances of the government of Guam, and it would have been a bubble of taxes, and we would have had many of our chronic problems addressed, unless they hired an extra couple thousand people for the government of Guam, which is always a possibility. But we would be in much, much better shape right now. And they might not have had to raise the rates if we had an extra 5 or 7 or 10,000 people drinking the Guam water from the waterworks, flushing toilets, taking showers, washing clothes, washing dishes, watering the lawns. You get what I mean? We're being strangled. So, at 4:32, it's time to take a break. Let's take our first break of the show. We'll come back with more of your comments and your phone calls after these.
GRMC's Neuroscience and Neurology Department treats a wide spectrum of disorders associated with the nervous system, spine, and brain. Some of the more common disorders include seizures, epilepsy, dementia, sleep disorders, migraine, and stroke, which is one of the leading causes of death on Guam. GRMC's neuroscience team is equipped with the latest technology and the finest neurological doctors. To make an appointment, contact GRMC Specialty Clinics at 645-5500.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for the all-new Pit Smoked Brisket. How would you like it?
I'll take a man who knows what's what.
Y'all know what? The all-new Pit Smoked Brisket at Subway is smoked slower than a slug going up a down escalator, that's what. I'm talking tender, juicy brisket, naturally pit smoked for at least 13 hours. What's more, it's got layer after layer of smoky flavor. Smoked cheddar and barbecue sauce on delicious Italian bread. Subway, make it what y'all want, what not. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. Indeed, I am. And sitting here for Bob Klitzkie, who, if I had my druthers, he'd be sitting here. And he'd be waxing poetic about what's going on Guam today. But I totally agree with Pam. He says he needed that. He needed that. Yeah, he needs that. He needs that trip, or he would be here with us right now. So we'll be patient, and when he gets back, we can ask him all the questions. How did he do? How did he enjoy his break there? James Howard says, Daryl, why wasn't this planned decades ago and still no plan, just a lot of talk? If you're talking about the replacement of the water lines, they're already in phase 5. And we couldn't afford to float all the bonds and pay the water rates for all the work to be done at one time. Can you imagine if they were tearing down and rebuilding all of the transmission lines, upgrading the wells, changing out? You've seen those water reservoirs going up. It's been years since we've actually used the water reservoirs for their intended purpose, because for 15 or 20 years, we've been pumping straight from wells, pressurizing homes and businesses straight from the well motors, which burns them out, instead of pumping into a reservoir and the reservoir providing the pressure head. One of my jobs back about 15 years ago was to work on telemetry systems for new water wells and reservoirs. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it wasn't something I had done in my previous life. But it took a couple days for me to figure out exactly how I could contribute as a member of the private sector crew, technical crew, installing the telemetry equipment so that all of it would modulate itself by computer, and that the water shop could just sit there and look at it and go, wow, that's what's going on, and then reach over, take a mouse, and go click, 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 and change a setting or turn a pump on or off without having to drive 10 miles to a well. And I was also involved in installing some preliminary equipment for those same kinds of hookups on some GWA equipment. It was fun. I wore a hard hat and boots. That's why I came in that one day with hard hat on and a vest, because I was being considered to go back onto a crew to do that kind of work. And so, yeah, I'm familiar with, I've talked with the engineers over at GWA who are installing the water reservoirs and the wastewater pump systems now. And so it's an industrial infrastructure that supports the activities of the residents of Guam, all being built to federal standards and being built like the power plant to be able to get rid of non-compliant technology and industrial processes that are either not compliant for environmental reasons or not reliable or using old fuels. So, we're getting there. We're getting there. And so it has been planned. It's just that we couldn't afford it before. Our rates would have shot up 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It would have gotten to the point where we couldn't, we'd have high rates, today's high rates back then when we really couldn't have afforded it. That's why they couldn't roll it out. Pam Duvall waiting for the world to change? Oh, we got to make the world change. That's why we are meeting in this public space. That's why we discuss our public affairs in public. That's why we have a free press. That's why we have free speech. That's why we have elections. That's why we empower our representatives to do what needs to be done. And when they don't, kick them in the rear and kick them off the ballot. Eddie Cruz has joined us. Hey there, Eddie. He walked up behind me the other day in the store, and that was a bright moment. That brightened my day. Pam Duvall says, more officers, a real hospital instead of a makeshift first and center. You know, we know that with the salaries that we're paying, that they know what they need to do. They just haven't done it. They're prioritizing some things besides maintenance and hospital reporting systems. Those, I told you I used to work in medical records too, in a hospital in the States, major hospital in Washington, D.C., in the medical records department. So I've seen those systems. And only with the HIPAA, it's even more secure now. But it doesn't have to cost $40-some million. Ridiculous. Pam, welcome to Tall Tales.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, neighbor.
Well, I went to the meeting today, and unfortunately, GVB didn't bring their budget, so we didn't really know much of anything.
Don't they just have a budget as they go along? It doesn't really matter. They want to maintain some flexibility. They would tell us what they're going to spend the money on, because no telling. Didn't they just send the governor and a back at the beginning of August, right? They sent the governor. They sent a delegation from Guam up to, because they were recently elected, so that they could meet all the touchstone in Japan. Right. Oh, right. And that's why they don't tell us what they want to use the money for. True.
And mostly, they talked about how important the culture was, and I'm not against FESPAC or opposed FESPAC. I think it's great to know your culture. I'm Chamorro. I teach my children our culture. The point was, do we have to use money that should be going to other things like our hospital that's, kind of like a makeshift first aid center? You can't really call it a hospital. Simon Sanchez is a dump with trash and stray dogs all over and junk cars. Where's the pride? Okay, I went to the mayor's meeting last night, and we pull up and there's sakati and there's weeds and there's trash in this one little chain link area. There's no lights at the front entrance of the building. It's really sad. The building is falling apart on the inside. There's no maintenance. It doesn't seem like we have a crew here at GIGO. But the mayor's office is cut all the time. They even painted the Carabao from blue to brown. But,
I know.
And I like that. That's an improvement. But we have more things to spend on with our island. We need police officers. They need more money. There's so many other things that we could do. And my point was, why can't they raise money like the ball teams and all these kids that want to go off island? Raise it yourself. You've had all this time, to plan. So it's kind of like, we're taking it from our kids. We're taking it from our island. And, basically that was it. But then later, after all the senators had their say, it was running out of time. Marsh kind of, went over. But I would have said, if you want to showcase our beautiful island, let's get it cleaned up. Let's have some working toilets for visitors and local people that go to the beach. Let's fix our school. Let's fix our roads, like you were just saying. There's so many other things. Why can't they fundraise?
Yeah.
That was my point. Everyone else does it. You can bake sale, you can car wash, you can have a gala, charge $100 a plate, whatever. There are ways to raise money without taking it from areas that really need it,
Yeah, it's even private firms, if they were relied on to give the money for FESPAC, for cultural promotion, they make large donations. You've seen the large donations go to the University of Guam and go to American Cancer Society, other large functions. But that's not how it was. It was planned out because it's a government function. This is being handled by CAHA, right? It's being managed by CAHA. But with the change of administration, there was a transition, and the previous administration did not make a plan for the private sector to fund the next CAHA.
Right.
They left it, next FESPAC, right? They left it up to, they just left it up to the current administration, and they didn't have any time to think this through or to plan out how the cost could have been distributed to private donors and then the government could supplement to whatever else was needed. But no, they made a plan. They said 100 people are going. It takes $4,000 for each of them on average, and so for airfare and support while they're there on the ground, and to move all of the pieces.
And all that.
Yeah, and so that's what we need. And so in order to confirm our attendance, we're going to post the money. And then they told GVB, oh, by the way, you're paying for it.
Yeah.
Now, what is GVB already paying for? Have you taken a look at that?
No.
Okay.
Not everything.
They are paying. I know that they put a 4-month contract for the cleaning of the public restrooms at our public parks. That's one. Another one is, and this is something that was it was in the newspaper, I mentioned it a couple times during the show over the past couple of months, but the cleaning of the roadsides from Seti Bay Overlook all the way up to the public market in Dedido at Fatima Street and Marine Drive. If you as you drive north and south, take a look right just past Fatima Mobile as you're headed up towards Jigo. You start, the grass all of a sudden goes from nicely cut to 5 feet high.
Yeah.
Because that's the end of the footprint for the contractor. And that's being paid by GVB.
Mm-hmm.
DPW's not out there. And the mayors are not out there.
That's right. I have not seen any crew since, gosh, I've been here 2 years. We cut our own streets, and we cut our own intersections, and our own bus stop, and our own street light, power poles. I had my son-in-law go out to the street and cut the Sakati was 9 feet high.
Oh, the mayor?
We give the mayor a chance. I go to the office and I fill out the form that says request, complaint, blah, blah, blah. I must have a stack about an inch high because, I do it frequently and nothing ever gets, there's no action, there's no response. So after, a few months, it's like, okay, Shane, can you cut that while you cut the side of the road and, pick up whatever trash is at the bus stop and blah, blah, blah. It's not our job, but if we want to have visibility on the street, sometimes you just have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
No, we don't even see a skeleton crew, Daryl.
Well, our mayor, his crew has been out on Gadsden-Arrow Road just in the past week. And so the intersection by, Gadsden-Arrow and Marine Drive, from there all the way over, towards the other intersection on Route 15.
You're talking about the church area? Yeah.
Yeah, that was just...
If you notice that all that Tangantongan, it's not just grass. It's been there, jungle, growing through the fence and stuff. It's been neglected for years.
Yeah, you're supposed to go behind the fence and cut the one that's coming through the fence if you're really going to do it right. And even though, as much as I appreciate that they cut the side of the road at Gadsden-Arrow and Marine Drive, they left the trash. They left a bucket.
Yes.
They left a 5-gallon bucket.
Yes, I saw that yesterday and today.
Yeah.
And that's been there since the last time they cut.
But
the other thing is they'll cut trash and futon cushions along with the grass. It's like it's not my job, I'm just the cutter.
Pam, I have a pickup truck that I like driving, but it has some brake problems, and now that I got my retirement $2,000 check for Christmas, I might just take the truck down and have someone else do my brakes, and not try to do them myself, finish doing them myself. But if I had my truck running, I really would have gone out, but I think I would have made a sign first and put it on the back of the truck, says, do I really have to be out here doing this? I'm 65 years old.
You know what?
Do I really have to be out here doing this? There's a place by the...
I was going to do the same thing, Daryl.
Pam, I'll call you and we'll go out.
My sign is going to say, I provide the bags, the gloves, and the water. Just give me your hands.
Yeah, that's asking a bit much.
Why should we do it when, we're paying somebody to do it, right? And then I get comments on Facebook because of the pictures that I posted. Why don't you do the job if you think you can do better?
Oh, yeah, run.
Why doesn't the guy that has the job do the job?
Yeah. The one who's getting paid $70,000 now, right? 70,000. They used to do it. Yeah, they used to do it for 35.
Plus 20,000 benefits, and then whatever falls off the truck. Sorry, I didn't say that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's close to $100,000 for a job they used to do for 35. They used to run and do the job for 35, and they weren't even complaining.
Yeah, right.
I
could cut that grass at the senior citizens while he has lunch.
Yeah,
I've got my coveralls and my boots. I could do it.
I know, but
maybe I will.
Gigo's a big village, and I'm not minimizing the amount of work he has to do, but because he ran for the job, he and his vice have to do the job.
You know it exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Good job. Well, I got to go, Daryl. Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling, Pam. Really good to hear from you today.
God bless you.
God bless you. Okay, bye. It's 4:50, and that was our Pam. Let's take a break here, Real Joe, and we'll come back with more Tall Tales.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Kelaguen Hapa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mezcla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
We can't buy this house.
What?
It has 4 bathrooms. Just think of all the bathtub rings, water spots, and stains, plus the cleaning products I'll have to buy.
Didn't I tell you? The house comes with a non-electric Connecticut water treatment system. We'll have clean, soft water throughout the house, protect the water-using appliances, keep the tub, showers, and sinks looking like new, and help our skin, hair, and clothes look and feel great, too. The house even includes a Connecticut drinking water system.
A Connecticut system in the house? We'll take it.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. We've got about 8 minutes to go before the top of the hour, Fox News, and our halftime show. So stay tuned for that, and we have another hour after 5 o'clock to talk about what's going on in the community. Thank you, Pam, for calling. The comments continue on Facebook Live. Actually, I didn't even get to all the ones that had been posted already. James Howard says, I'd like to see an elected representative of the people who has a backstage pass, all access, and just focuses on all the things we need to fix. And then he says, reports to the people. And then Eddie Cruz says, I am here. Well, maybe he's not talking about the same thing, but that he is here. But we have directors who are given that all-access pass. They're installed at the request of the governor and the approval of the legislature. And they have recently been given top salaries. Their salaries have been bumped up to higher than what the governor makes by statute. I think they're just angling for an increase in the elected officials' compensation. I think that's the other shoe that's going to drop. But we have appointed officials in charge of agencies, and we haven't seen the agencies themselves progress beyond what they were doing and how they were doing it 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Even though we have a new administration, we don't see executive direction. We don't see any apparent executive direction. That's what I mean. We should have seen change by now. We don't have to wait for election time. We don't have to wait for campaign time. We need change. We need effective, efficient government. They were supposed to roll the taxes back. Now those are the forever taxes. And we don't see any additional use for the money, except to make sure that the salaries are maintained, that the payroll levels are maintained, and the workforce, not the police workforce, but other workforce is funded, and the health and retirement benefits are paid, except the hospital, because they're spending money on things that they, other things than retirement and taxes. So, Gus Chasangas, I agree with you, Daryl. No. Pam Howard says, Pam, call in. James Howard says, Pam, call in. And let's see. Eddie Cruz says, FESPAC hearing was a joke. And Sherry Iriarte says, checking in, listening over the airwaves. Thank you very much for tuning in to 93.3. And good to see you there, Sherry. And Pam says, they didn't bring their budget, first of all. Couldn't tell how much we owe from the last one. Oh, from the last FESPAC. That was an interesting exercise. I was over at PBS Guam as the manager, and we were supposed to start our planning well in advance. There's a whole, as the host country, they pass down the general a process that you need to go through in order to plan for an event of that size with numbers of people coming in. And I read that and I said, okay, by this time we need to have on my side the communication plan together so that we could upload for viewing in the other countries that were participating real-time video. And I was like, okay, governor's office, we're ready with our plan. Let's get started. And they're like, go away, don't bother us. We're planning, but we're not talking to you yet. I said, no, I got to have my plan. We got to start planning it now because it's on the time frame. And they just said, go away. And I'm like, every couple of weeks, I'm like, come on, guys, let me in. Finally, they go, oh, okay, we need for you to be involved. So-and-so's here from off island, and she wants your report. So I sit down and say, well, I know what I need to do. I just don't have nobody's working with me. And nobody on island can meet the technical specifications. I need new cameras. I need new fiber optic. All my equipment is 20 years old. So I was able to get over $120,000 worth of new equipment. Digital, video equipment, fiber optic cables, switching equipment, computers for editing, from the FESPAC money in order to video and upload to satellite. And that was a great experience. Now I know in Hawaii they won't have that expense because all the infrastructure is there. But PBS Guam has got a great new set of equipment because of the FESPAC event. And when you're not sure how much it costs, well, we had to build those huts down at Chamorro Village. There's no plan to use them yet. I'm not going to criticize it because we needed to have them, but now we don't know what to do with them. And that's part of the planning. We should know. They should know. The people who are pulling down director salaries now should know. Gus says, FYI, just got out of my meeting with partners here in Houston with Guam landfill issues. Wow. That's interesting. You got to tell us about that sometime, Gus. Call in and let us know. Discuss it with us here on the air. Eddie Cruz says, GVB and those who benefit from business with tourists should be calling the shots on FESPAC and how much of their money they want to spend. True that, GVB, They should. They should. And maybe this is a non-issue, because maybe they would say, yes, GVB, spend the money on FestPac. This is a great idea. Promote. And we wouldn't be talking about this. Well, I'm not down to the end of I'm not down to the end of your comments, but I will pick up on this on the other side. It's 4:59. Let's take a break here for Fox News, find out what's going on in the mainland, and our halftime show. And I'll be here for another hour, so I hope you are too.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Predicting victory. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. On the eve of a close governor's election in Kentucky, President Trump rallying in Lexington Monday night for Republican Matt Bevin.
Wages are rising. Confidence is soaring. Kentucky is thriving like never, ever before. And America is stronger than ever before.
Bevin in a tight race for re-election against Democrat Andy Beshear, whose dad used to be Kentucky's governor. President told the group that voters will show what he called the corrupt Democrats that we will never back down. And that seems to be the Democrats' mantra as well, as more administration witnesses decline to give depositions to the House committees probing the president.
We're not going to delay our work. That would merely allow these witnesses and the White House to succeed with their goal, which is to delay, deny, obstruct.
House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, testimony of two previous committee witnesses no longer secret.
House Democrats released the transcripts of two interviews conducted as part of the impeachment inquiry. In a session last month with congressional committees, former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Marie Yovanovitch said she was warned to watch her back by a Ukrainian government official and described a smear campaign by President Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani. Another career diplomat, former State Department advisor Michael McKinley, also described unfavorable treatment of Yovanovitch. Republicans say the testimony does nothing to provide evidence of a quid pro quo allegation at the center of the impeachment inquiry.
That's Fox's Jared Halpern on Capitol Hill. The transcripts from the depositions of former envoy Kurt Volker and the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, Sundland, are scheduled to be released on Tuesday. South Dakota has lethally injected a convicted killer, Charles Rhines, convicted in 1993 for stabbing a 22-year-old donut shop worker Donovan Schaefer to death. U.S. Supreme Court denied his last-minute appeal. America is listening to Fox News.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for the all-new pit smoked brisket. How would you like it?
I'll take a man who knows what's what.
Y'all know what? The all-new pit smoked brisket at Subway is smoked slower than a slug going up a down escalator, that's what. I'm talking tender, juicy brisket, naturally pit smoked for at least 13 hours. What's more, it's got layer after layer of smoky flavor. Smoked cheddar and barbecue sauce on delicious Italian bread. Subway, make it what y'all want, what not. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
In life, we all have the ability to make a difference, to make an impact on someone's life. As we look around us, time never stops, but we are filled with endless moments of gratitude. The art of giving is incorporated in so many different ways. At Guam Gift Baskets, we want to be able to express your gratitude and love to those who you care about. Show your appreciation with a gift made with love this holiday season. Visit our website at guamgiftbaskets.com. See the smiles, touch their hearts, feel the experience.
Roger Stone, a longtime associate of President Trump's, goes on trial in Washington in the morning.
Stone is accused of lying to the House Intelligence Committee about efforts to contact WikiLeaks about stolen Democratic Party emails in 2016. The 67-year-old also faces charges of witness tampering and trying to obstruct a congressional investigation. Stone was arrested in January and made so many public statements, the judge in the case instituted a gag order. He faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
The U.S. has given the United Nations formal notification that it is pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord.
The president made a decision a little while back that we would leave the Paris Climate Accords for the simple reason that it was America that would suffer the straitjacket. It was American jobs that would be lost. It would be quintessentially unfair to the American people and the American workers. Today was the first day that we could file the document that we did today, and 12 months on, we will withdraw formally.
That's Secretary of State Mike Pompeo appearing on Lou Dobbs Tonight on the Fox Business Network. More than $1.5 billion worth of illegally grown marijuana plants seized in California. The state's Attorney General Javier Becerra says the raids netted more than 950,000 plants from nearly 350 growing operation sites this year. Nearly 150 people were arrested and about 170 weapons seized. A senior Hong Kong official says Chinese President Xi Jinping's surprise meeting with the territory's leader, Carrie Lam, is a vote of confidence in her government's ability to tackle 5 months of anti-government protests. President Xi met Lam on the sidelines of a trade event in Shanghai amid signals from China's central government that it may tighten its grip on Hong Kong even as those pro-democracy demonstrations continues. Record highs for the three major industries on Wall Street Monday. The Dow up 113 points. NASDAQ gained 46. The S&P 500 11 points higher. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Rain. It's nature's way of cleansing the earth. Yet by the time that rainwater makes its way to your home, it may not be exactly the same as nature created it. A Connecticut water treatment system can improve the quality of the water you and your family drink and use throughout your home, so you can be sure your water is clear, clean, and fresh, just as nature intended it to be. Connecticut, for refreshing ideas on water.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your fix every day with the Points NFL Pick'em Contest. Get the latest updates as we check out the past week's performance and break down the upcoming action. Get your game on by calling the hotline at 888-TALK or sound off on Facebook Live at thepoint.gu. League members get a chance to win some awesome weekly prizes with a shot for your choice of a new GTA phone. The NFL Pick'em Contest is brought to you by Current Guam with special thanks to GTA.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who will be back. He will be back before Thanksgiving. So thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon and for joining the conversation. If you'd like to call, 888-8255 is the telephone number here at the studio. You can also make your comments on Facebook Live. And however you access Facebook Live. And thank you once again for being here this afternoon. Continuing on with some of the comments that were registered on Facebook Live, Pam Duvall says, Mayor couldn't even cut the grass at the senior center where he invited the village. Yeah? Maybe some of the supporters of Senator Moylan might have gone there and checked the place out first and cut the not only cut the grass but raked it, and bagged it and took it away, and then put little signs saying compliments of Senator James Moylan, right? Well, I think if I was a senator, I'd send my people out there and check it first. If the mayor didn't do it, I wouldn't complain about him. I just take it as an opportunity. Gus says, eliminate landfill. Yeah, Gus, you're going to have to give us a call and talk to us about this sometime. We'd love to hear from you about your side of this ongoing need to, for the people of Guam to be responsible for their waste stream. Not just responsible for earning the money and consuming and enjoying life, but also being responsible for their waste stream. Kazendo says, I drink my water right out of the tap. How awesome is that? Can't say the same in a lot of other places in the world. In fact, Guam's water is safe. Now, I'm going to, recall that my relatives over in Sinahanya may not like me saying that because they got burned, a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And it only takes one of those episodes for you to not really trust what GWA is saying. But, and I used to work on, doing those checks of chlorination levels when I was working on the water wells, having to work on those water treatment facilities at the wellheads, and the chlorine injection. Who do we have here? Ken. Governor Leon Guerrero, welcome to Tall Tales.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so how is it this afternoon? You were telling me earlier today you're headed to a meeting down at Adelup. What was that all about?
Well, that was the Committee on Decolonization board meeting.
Are we decolonized yet? Did they accomplish it? Is it a job well done?
We have so far to go. It's unbelievable. But basically, I went to see if they were going to give me a response to my letter to my petition for official status quo task force recognition.
Yeah.
They're going to respond to my request in a letter. But I did a presentation.
No, wait, let me back up. Did they already make their decision but not in a meeting?
No.
I mean, didn't the Gura board get in trouble for this?
No, the memo was handed out at the board meeting to the members. They took a few minutes to read it, and then I was given time to make a statement or give my presentation to the board.
Okay.
And I pointed out to the board that everybody keeps referring to 1980, the vote in 1980, which had 5 options, of which one was status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And I pointed out to them that 2 generations have been born since that vote. Back in 1980, the population of Guam was between 115 and 120,000. Today, we're between 159 and 170,000. And according to the U.S. Census data, 68% of our residents on Guam now are 44 or younger. So the majority of those people have been born after that Commonwealth vote was held. And I pointed out that, since 1980, there have been a lot of changes on Guam, a lot of changes in the world. Guam is not isolated like it used to be, because back in 1980, we had 2 airlines, Pan Am and Mid-Pac Air. 3, Continental, too. We had 3 airlines, Now we have a lot more airlines. Back then, we didn't have the internet. We didn't even have long-distance service that was affordable. Back in the 80s, a long-distance phone call was $2.50 a minute.
Okay, and so?
Now, we are a different island, a different people, and the majority of those living on Guam have been born after the Commonwealth status vote. So we can't keep talking about that because most of the people alive on the island don't even know what it is, So we need to do this process and do it right. I pointed out that the decolonization law that we're following is flawed, and it's already cost taxpayers over nearly $2 million between the awards under the Davis decisions and the government of Guam expenses that they don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And if we keep following this process, we're going to spend millions more fighting other decisions. So according to Thomas Paine, one of my favorite authors, there comes times when common sense must triumph over law, but there should never be a time when a law triumphs over common sense. And here's where we are. You've got a badly written law. It's cost taxpayers almost $2 million so far. And if we keep going down this road, it's going to cost millions more. Let's not make these mistakes. Let's put together a credible, a valid and credible petition to set before the U.S. Congress. And the way we do that is we acknowledge that status quo is an option because U.S. Congress says so. And we fund the education effort and have a real education effort to the point where everybody on the island has had the opportunities to learn the ramifications of all the different options. Because there are people on Guam today who still think that if we become independent, we're going to charge the United States government $10 billion a year or more for the bases. And I pointed out to the commission that, Castro has been trying to get rid of the United States Navy on Guantanamo, ever since '56, and that hasn't gone well.
I thought you were going to say the Castros have been trying to get access to their beach down at Anderson for how long? Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So I said, right now, whether we like it or not, the way to whatever status we choose is going to be with the advice and consent and blessings of the U.S. Congress. So let's put together a credible effort. Let's fund, or let's do a very, very robust education effort on all options, including status quo. And let's do a vote that includes all residents of Guam. And when we do that and go before the U.S. Congress, then we have a credible petition. But right now, we don't even have a constitution. So we have offered Congress no proof whatsoever that we are ready to take on more government power locally. So until we do some of these things, we're not going to have a credible petition. But let's make the effort. Let's do a credible petition. And right now, the education effort is very, very hamstrung. It's weak. It's barely funded. And it's being done by volunteers. Well, let's get some resources into the different education efforts, because what they're planning right now is 16 one-hour specials on PBS and YouTube of the conference that was held.
Yeah, I caught one of those. I caught one of those the other day.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't even know they existed, which shows how well they're doing promoting these things.
And it had the same bad audio of the original.
Oh, I'm sure they probably have the same bad video too. But that's not a credible effort. A conference held among the choir members and on topics that are very arcane and not updated. The economics information I understand, I'm not sure, but I think it's from 2000. A lot of things have changed in Guam and the world since 2000, when the first economic study was done on the different options.
Yes.
So that's where we left it. I requested they respond to my request for acknowledgement as task force, and that I be included on the educational opportunities and presentation opportunities and educational funding.
I'm really looking forward to this. I am really so looking forward to hearing you, Ken, defend today the way we are doing government now. I am so looking forward to it. I think it's going to spin some heads. But if anyone can, you can.
I hope to.
Yeah.
And The reason why is because if any of the other task force I slammed the free association because free association is after the fact. We become independent first, then we have a free association. We can't say it's a valid option now going into it, because what if we become independent and the United States doesn't want to associate with us? There's no guarantees. So, the United States didn't associate with Cuba. They just kept Gitmo.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here is this is a decision that's going to affect future generations forever. And it's not something we should rush into with a minimal effort and only a few people participating. And if they continue down this road, there will be legal challenges, and the taxpayers at Guam will end up being the ones having to pay the penalty for the mistakes of this commission.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we left it. And then Howard Hemsing came up and did his presentation, but it was mostly in Chamorro.
Was he high?
No.
Good.
And he agreed with me on some points and disagreed with me on other points. But the one point we agreed on is that there needs to be a robust educational effort so the people of Guam know what we're setting out to do and go into it with eyes wide open. And
yes.
That's all I think the commission should do. They should empower these task force. They should get federal funding for these task force, and they should get substantial funding for these task force because they're being asked to do a substantial thing, which is to change the political status of a people. So this is not something we should approach lightly, and this is not something that should be done on a dime. It should be done full dollar because of the ramifications. It's forever. If we become independent, then we're going to have to. We make our bed and we have to live in it forever.
Yeah. Right.
So that's why we have to, as I told the board, we have to make haste slowly. And we need to do it wisely, and we need to do it comprehensively with a robust education effort for all options.
Now, were they paying attention? Were they paying attention to you, or were they kind of looking at their cell phones and checking Facebook and watching Tall Tales?
I was pointing out to them that we had 4 senators, 3 on the committee and 1 in the room, and these senators should do their task and go back and fix this law. Just because it's law doesn't mean it's good law, and that's bad law has already cost taxpayers $2 million. So the first thing the senators should do is go back and amend this law so that it will be credible when we present our credentials before our petition and our credentials before the U.S. Congress. Because right now we have a counterfeit ID, and we're trying to get into the bar.
Not the Bar Association.
No. Well, it's not going to work. We've already seen that. Puerto Rico has better credibility and credentials than we have, and they still haven't been able to surpass that majority vote issue. They had 90% vote for statehood, but only 25% of the population voted, and Congress kicked the petition as invalid due to minority vote. Let's not make that mistake. Let's just let everybody vote. We can do demographics during the vote just to see who voted and what the outcome of the vote was, but we need to make sure that the vote is open to everybody because everybody lives here. This is their home. They should have a say in it.
I'm going to differ with you on that point. Not that there should not be a vote for everyone, but there should be a vote just for those who are registered, who meet the definition, because that is something that if it's not held, it'll always be referred to as an invalid expression. And not that it should be the only expression. It shouldn't be the only vote held. It should be a vote held, so that the process has integrity. because the final say on our political status is Congress. It is not us. It is not the native inhabitant vote. It's not the vote of all the people of Guam. It is Congress. And so in order for the native inhabitants and their descendants to feel that this is a valid process, that vote has to be held. And by the court rulings, thank you, Dave Davis, because by the court rulings, the government of Guam cannot fund that vote, cannot conduct that vote. And unfortunately, because of the ruling in the Dave Davis case, it appears that some entity outside that is not created by the government of Guam is going to have to conduct that vote. And it's an unfortunate turn, but it's a turn. And that's where we are now.
One of the conditions to have our petition considered valid.
Yes. And so, but we do have to move forward with a real heads-up education campaign. And it has to include everyone, and it can't be government run. You know, if the government runs it, the government's going to run it the way they run the education program the way that they want to run it. You know, the ones who are in now want to run it. And sometimes I think we have not elected our best brains in the community to our leadership positions because of what kind of results.
Well, that's why I like the part of the approach we've taken with the different task force, because all the task force are staffed or headed by volunteers from the communities that believe strongly in their task force. So if you look at the independent task force, although some of the people may be government of Guam employees, that is not their job. Their job is university professor or whatever their jobs are, but they do this in their volunteer time, their off time. But that is as their private personas, you know. Right. Like I do this with Guam citizens in my public persona, but Guam Citizens is not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with any government entity. So by us standing up to do the status quo as well, we fit the definition that would be acceptable. We're a non-governmental operation, and our charter and purpose is all about education.
I just have this mental image. I have a mental image of the governor and the lieutenant governor and the members of the legislature all walking in a procession to some, you know, onto the stage for some function, and they're carrying their sword and their shield, and on the shield it has your face as the hero of the status quo. I just couldn't help it. Had to share that.
I appreciate that. Unfortunately, the governor was busy with something else, so she didn't attend.
Well, at least you're there. You're the other governor, other Governor Leon Guerrero. So at least we had some representation there.
Yeah, and what's important, it was real interesting to listen to the reports from the Decolonization Committee on their trip to the UN and their visits to the State Department and Department of Interior, where basically they say very what is the word I'm looking for? They're trying to put lipstick on a pig when they say that we've gotten no response, or the Department of State listened to us on a conference call, but they didn't say a thing. You know, these are not good signs.
Oh, but it was a good trip. I'll bet they enjoyed that trip.
It may have been a good trip, but it's not signs that the effort from Guam is being taken as a credible effort in the area, in the arenas that matter most. And where it matters most is Department of Interior, Department of State, and the U.S. Congress. So if they're getting a ho-hum response from those entities, then we need to really refocus our effort and build a credible petition. Because that's the only way we're going to make any changes is with a credible petition. I met with some of the Eddie Duenas was there, Eloy Hera was there, and they were back from the 1980 convention, and so they were sharing some stuff with me. And they pointed out that back in 1980, status quo was one of the options offered. Well, if it was offered in 1980, why isn't it offered in now? And they both confirmed to me that the reason why we didn't move ahead with our Commonwealth, which is basically the same thing we are now, was because we refused to agree to mutual consent.
Right.
So
that was the issue that broke the talks down, because we wouldn't give up the mutual consent clause, which was extended to the Northern Marianas, which was why at the time it was reasonable to request it, since the United States had agreed with the people of the Northern Marianas to include that in their compact. But we're U.S. citizens, and we couldn't negotiate that with our own government. They would not allow it, since it's a sovereign negotiating with people who are not. And the Northern Marianas, they were two sovereigns.
Now, see, people listening to us right now have no idea of the Indian wrestling and the softball throwings that have taken place back and forth over this issue between you and me. We have a lot of areas in common, about 90% in common. And that's pretty high. But the areas where I agree with you more than you probably agree with yourself is the need for the robust education. I know you agree with it. I think it needs to be even stronger than you think it should have been.
I think it should be so strong that it should be a no-holds-barred campaign that's privately funded. I don't even think the government should fund the campaign. I think they should open it up to private interests and even federal government funding for any one of the preferred options, and just let it be a full-on campaign. That's how, and the education should be in the context of a campaign, because this is a political question. It is not a let's all return to school. It has to be a campaign, and it has to be robust, because with the competition among the various interests given full play in a political campaign, we will get the best information out.
I pointed out to the committee that this is an important decision, and it's not like we can redo it in 4 years. Once we make this decision and once the petition is accepted, then, we can't come back to Congress 4 years later and say, we held a convention and we changed our minds.
Well, they may change their minds in 4 years too. We might have a continuation of what's going on with the feeling of isolationism, guiding foreign policy of the United States, and Guam may be less important in the grand scheme of things for decision makers in D.C. in 4 years. And so, if we expect to get something done, we should be getting it done and doing it ourselves and doing it right, putting our best foot forward and not just screwing around with it like we have been for years. Ken, I want to thank you.
I would agree with you on that.
Thank you very much for calling in and giving us a report on today's Commission on Self-Determination meeting and your presentation.
You're welcome. We'll see what happens out of it.
Yeah, well, keep us informed. You know the phone number.
I do.
And you know my phone number. Thank you very much, Ken. Yep. And that was the other Governor Leon Guerrero telling us about what had happened in today's meeting down at Adelup on the Commission of Self-Determination. It's 5:33, time to take our 7th inning stretch, and we'll be right back with more Tall Tales and your comments and calls after this.
Want to grow your business? Start a new venture? Or stay ahead of the competition? You can. With Docomo Pacific Smart Business Solutions tailored to your specific needs and ambitions, you can do it all. Partner with a network with best-in-class network coverage, state-of-the-art communication platforms, and a team dedicated to providing you with premium support. Call 688-2677 to start your journey to success today. Docomo Pacific Business, delivering your future today.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mescla. Try their featured special for November. Pork belly and French toast. Crispy pork belly strips served over lightly battered brioche. Raspberry demi-glaze and topped with maple syrup. Visit Mescla in Agana and now in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Going back to your Facebook comments, I want to zip through these, and then we have a couple items in the card I'd like to get to. Eddie Cruz was saying which mayor, and apparently the vice mayor of Jigo is the one that's out there cutting the grass. But I don't know what happened to the mayor, Mayor Rudy. Kenny Williams says, I like Jigo, Lake Jigo, Mosquito Lake. I was wondering whether, Eddie Cruz, you've got a Smoky Joe to smoke down your swamp back there. You know, I mean, it's a natural sinkhole with water in it and all that good stuff, but I just wonder if if they've been around to take some samples of the mosquitoes from there. And then you said, Eddie Cruz said, they cut the grass but left the trash. Yes. Yeah, I know. I drive right by it. And then James Howard said, right on, Pam. And Pam said, let's go on a ride through Jigo. I'll show you what's up. I'll drive. You know, I ride my bike. When I can, I ride my bike around Jigo, and I see it. But, Pam, I'd love to get together with you sometime when we can get out there and take a look at the state of affairs in Jigo. And then James Howard goes, revolution, and the Guam flag. And then, let's see. Damning Pinoy says, how many on Guam would be willing to give up their United States passport? And Ishmael Velez says, currently the Bengals are the lowest-ranked team in the NFL. Gosh, I thought it was the Redskins. I was going to wear my Redskins shirt today. Similarly, Guam is the lowest-ranked next to Samoa. Massive land in the nation. But that's the thing. The Bengals are still in the NFL, and Guam is still in the nation. The Bengals can be the top-ranked in the Pee Wee League if they left the NFL, but then what? Guam disassociating itself from the USA puts them in the Pee Wee League, no longer part of the NFL USA. And that is if that's what the US wants. You know, and basically if like with the Philippines. Philippine legislature said, Philippine Congress said we don't want the bases anymore, and the U.S. said, okay, fine, we're gone. And I don't know if that would still happen here. I think the bases would stay, and that would be negotiated. But there's some other things that would go, and that's all has to come out in the education. Effort. That's why we would have a public education effort, so we could have realistic expectations of what each of those statuses mean. Let's see. James Howard then said, and then China came knocking on the door. Yeah, of course. But maybe, consider, maybe the United States doesn't want to be out here anymore. That's the latest news out of the United States is that our president is riding a sentiment of, and he's stoking an isolation sentiment, which is a normal swing of the pendulum among the American public. That sees the two oceans as being the natural barriers between troubles going on other parts of the world, and want our boys and girls in the service to come home and not spend a lot of money on being the police for everybody else. Let them fight their own wars, and let them take care of themselves. So thank you very much for your comments on Facebook Live today. Again, our telephone number, 888-8255. And Francis has answered the call to call. Hi there, Francis.
How you doing, Daryl? I heard you earlier mention you were gonna comment on the as requested by somebody on the Patriot Act.
Oh, I'm going to read that. I pulled it down, but I didn't have a time to really digest it before I came in. The Patriot Act and how it affects
We're gonna have time to really get into it, so we'll probably continue tomorrow.
Yes. I'm going to bring that up in connection with the Second Amendment in particular.
Okay. All right. We'll catch you tomorrow then. You have a nice evening, Daryl.
Thank you very much, Francis, and you too. Okay, bye. And we will get to that tomorrow. I'll make that part of our Second Amendment discussion, and I'll bring to you this Wall Street Journal op-ed from October 27. In our the card today, John Beneventi versus Vince Areola. You saw that little blurb on the bottom of page 1 of the Post today? It was entitled, DPW, Dismantle Traffic Lights, Demolish Raised Medians. And it goes like this. DPW Director Vince Areola sent a letter to John Beneventi over at GPA on October 31st, calling attention to major concerns and issues that need to be addressed. Areola said DPW has concerns with potential damage to Guam's roads. And it has to do with the number of axles to haul the equipment. And the load is well in excess of the 80,000 pounds that our roads and bridges are designed for, Areola wrote. And then GPA is also expected to repair any damages that occur on the roadway. The transport will take place along various culverts and bridges. Locations and intersections equipped with traffic lights will require dismantling and reinstallation, and all raised medians may require demolition and reconstruction, according to the DPW director. Beneventi pointed to similar issues with equipment for power plants in the northern villages. They all came through the same bridges. I remember that they brought in all of these multi-wheels. The way it is, like a big trailer, every point on the road is taking a portion of the load. Again, they're doing their due diligence in letting us be aware this is the potential. This plant will get here. We'll do it safely. This is not an issue. Really, yes, Vince has to write the letter because DPW has to make those plans. And, but who has more experience? Of course, write the letter. But for it to be a problem in the press, it's not a problem. It's a process. And yes, GPA or its contractor has to pay for any cost of getting the equipment from the ship. They got to put it on a ship. Then they got to get it off the ship. And they got to put it on a truck. And they got to drive it up to the place to install. Of course. That's the process. And, and all they have to do is just sit down and go, okay, yes, well, it's all part of it. How much is it going to cost to have the traffic light guys right there to disconnect and reconnect? And, the GPA bucket trucks to disconnect on one side and lift it up. It's a process, right? It's a non-story. But the installer is going to have deep pockets. They're fully funded. It's a non-story, but revealing in its contrast. Is it contrast of capability and ineptitude? No, it's just a process. But it shouldn't even be a story. DPW can handle its side. Oh, here's the question. Can DPW handle its side of the move without victimizing us, the public? Can they? Here's the question. We have no question that that piece of equipment is going to go from the port to Dedido. But can DPW get the lights turned back on? Can they clear and then rebuild the medians? Can they, without victimizing us? Without leaving rocks all over the road or, lights out for days? That's the question. It's not whether that piece of equipment is going to go up the road. It's whether DPW can handle the stress. And whether it's going to have its people in place. And whether they can get their job done on time without snarling traffic. That's the question. It's not Vince Ariola questioned John Beneventi whether this can be done. Interesting article. Here's another one. Here's another one from today's paper. And I have it on the card as construction industry versus U.S. workers. Why would I put that? Construction industry versus U.S. workers? The article is Guam bankers contribute $10,000 to H-2B lawsuit. It's on page 12 of today's Guam Daily Post. And it talks about, the lawsuit filed on October 4, 2016 by a group of Guam companies representing different industries against U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service after its year-long, nearly 100% denial of all petitions for skilled foreign workers under the H-2B visa program, filed in the District Court of Guam. Wow, $10,000? That's all it cost? For the lawyers? Well, probably some others. But Guam Bankers Association will discuss its $10,000 contribution to the Guam Contractors Association lawsuit against the federal government. And that meeting was at 10 o'clock this morning, and there's a press conference on it. But, I'm glad they had the press conference, and we'll find out tomorrow what they said about it, but let me tell you. The Guam banks would rather see continued delay on civilian-side projects than allow Guam's construction industry workers to earn compensation closer to U.S. levels. Why do I say that? Look, the lawsuit was filed in October of 2016, and they had been denied for a year already H-2B worker approvals. It's 4 years now. And they still are holding out hope. They would rather freeze construction on Guam than allow the compensation for workers to rise. They still want the prevailing wages. Now they're using the depressed U.S. Department of Labor prevailing wages for their estimates for all construction. They're depressed because they're depressed down to previously approved foreign temporary labor contract levels. I say let the market determine construction wages on Guam without government interference. That government interference is access to cheap foreign labor, the H-2B program. Maybe, just maybe, then we can grow our own local workforce. In the meantime, we may have to bring in more workers from the States. Oh no! Who's afraid of that? Big bad wolf. You worried about unionized construction workers? You're worried about we already have enforcement of safety provisions. And that's primarily what construction workers want, is safe working conditions, enough workers on the job to do the job, and properly equipped, properly supervised, and properly compensated. And then there wouldn't be a problem with needing H-2B workers. Not for something, they're saying it's temporary. There's a chronic need for construction on Guam. As long as the federal government's spending $300 million a year on military construction alone, not including the buildup. So really, really, really. But the Guam bankers and the Guam Guam Contractors Association would rather see no construction than to allow the rates to go up, the wage rates to go up. They're just clinging to this. And I know they're going to justify it by saying the cost of housing for a new housing start is going to rise if we don't have H-2 workers. I seem to recall that the last couple of housing tracts that were built not using H-2B workers. We need to let our local workforce work on these projects and not depend on H-2Bs. You see, the federal government just exempted itself. Sure, if it's for the base construction, you can have H-2B. Because it's their budget. And they can slice it this way. They don't have to give it to us. It's so... So, we got another break. Let's take our break here before I go to the next topic. Thank you.
Live the balanced lifestyle. Take Care Insurance offers proven wellness and fitness programs to encourage individuals and families to live a healthy, balanced lifestyle through preventative care, being active, eating right, relaxing and unwinding, and being socially connected. They have the island's largest offering of free fitness classes and health education programs for all ages. Join the movement. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram or visit takecareasia.com to learn more.
Konnichiwa! We'll be celebrating the 40th Japan Autumn Festival on Saturday, November 16th from 2 until 9 at the Governor Joseph Flores Beach Park. That's Ipao Beach Park. Parking will be available across Oka Payless with free shuttle service every 15 minutes starting at 1:30. Advance tickets available now at the Japan Club of Guam office located on the first floor of Pia Marine during business hours. The Japan Autumn Festival at Ipao Beach Park, November 16th from 2 to 9. Come join us. For information, call 646-8066. This message made possible by Choice Broadcasting.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. We are in our last 10 minutes of today's show. Thank you very much for staying tuned and for checking out what it is we're talking about today. To take us up to the top, people of Guam versus politicians of Guam. Why would I say that? Why would I pit the people against the politicians? There's an election going on in a year. Aren't we going to be going out there to pick sides? But when we do, it'll be against some of the others who are running. We don't want those guys in. We want our guys in, right? But it's also against the politicians. We need statesmen. We need leaders. We need people who are going to work as public servants. We don't need politicians. You know, this... How have the incumbents done so far? In the legislature, we're halfway through the term. You know, how much is going to get done over the next month and a half? You know, after they distributed the checks to the Gov Guam retirees, the COLA checks, the $2,000 across-the-board gift, it didn't say, when I opened up my envelope this morning, it didn't say compliments of Governor Luliang Guerrero and the members of the 35th Guam legislature for that $14 million giveaway. It didn't say that. But it was printed in light purple. My wife and I had a nice laughed about that before I deposited it. And thank you. I mean, I'll take it, but was it really necessary? Wouldn't I rather have heard that the $14 million went straight into GMH? Wouldn't I have been happier? I know that there's some retirees from back about 15 or 20 years ago who are making really low amounts on their retirement, and they could use a cost of living adjustment. Yeah. But not those whose retirements, they're getting a full retirement after 30 years, and they were pulling down, $70 or $100,000 or $142,000 when they were working, and they've got full retirement. No, not necessary. It's just, or those who just in the last couple of years, or 5 years, 10 years, retired. How necessary is it? Necessary. I don't mean, who wants it? Of course, everyone wants it. But is it necessary? Is it a higher priority than getting some other things done? It's coming from someone who got one. So, got a senator's midterm assessment. That was budgeted money. That was part of the budget. That was part of the $952 million that was approved. Are we going to have a more professional legislature next time? Are we going to have a part-time legislature next time? Is it going to be a referendum on the next ballot? So that we, the people, force it. Force the legislature to pay attention to priorities. How about the mayors? After 3 years of service, are the villages better off after the current mayors in their 3 years of service to us? Are they taking care of everything that we expect them to take care of? Is it an optimal system? Have they done right? Do you like the way that they run the gambling down at the carnival? Even the governor is going for that now. That was in the news today. We're going to have a straw poll for the president next year on the ballot, or a straw poll for self-determination. Do you think we'll be in time with our political education? We just thinking about it now. We need to keep thinking about whether and how Guam can be a better place as a direct result of our election. Because that's the only way we're going to get a better place, is if we have better people in there. And it has to be critical mass. But look at the crew that we have now and consider if the exact same people went in next time, whether things would be any different. Based on our experience, on what we've seen. I was excited today to see in an article in the paper about 2020 election. Let's see. About who's signed up. Let's see. Here we are. Yeah, Guam's earliest potential 2020 and 2022 candidates. And they had the listing of the mayors, of course, who are going to run. I didn't see Mayor Rudy's name there. He hasn't responded as to whether he's going to run for re-election up in Jigo. Maybe he'll take Angel Sablan's job and just sit down in Naganya. One name that kind of popped out at me as I was reading the PDN article here was Janine Guevara. Janine Perez Guevara, a Democrat, is a potential candidate for senator after filing an organization report on October 10. Now, I've known Nin for a long time, worked with her mom, and she's a fine, upstanding citizen. I am here to say that I was real happy to see this. Really happy. We'll also be needing to choose a public auditor, a delegate, Guam Education Board members, and CCU vacancies, if any. There must be something. I know Simon was reelected last year, but there must be somebody coming up for reelection this time on the CCU board. And